you like Proverbs? I'll bet you do, because we all do. Sayings like, "A stitch in time saves 9," or "A penny saved is a penny earned." One that I really like is, "If you don't have time to do it right, do you have time to do it over?" Which I need to turn to when I feel particularly pressured to complete a task on time. But here is a statement that really is a joke about how even the simplest of things can be more complicated than you expect. It's called Murphy's Law. It goes, "If anything can possibly go wrong, it will." Now, most of us hear Murphy's Law and chuckle because we've learned long ago that you can always count on things to break down and stop working. It's not that we're pessimistic. It's just that a lot of things are not as easy as they first appear. However, in the gospel, we find that there is something more powerful than Murphy's Law. It is the absolute reliability and unimaginable extent of God's love. To tell us that, Jesus told the story of the prodigal son. The story begins with a younger son demanding from his father his share of the inheritance, which was a real slap in the face for his father. Next, the younger son left home for a faraway land, which meant he was abandoning his father's faith and placing himself beyond any communication in the ancient world. But the story continues. The son ran out of money and found himself starving, so he made his own discovery of Murphy's Law. He became so hungry that he wanted to eat the food of the swine he was feeding, and that was about as low as you could get. But he finally came to his senses and figured out that even his father's servants were in better shape than he was. So he decided to go home. He even got a speech prepared so he would know exactly what to say when he saw his father. However, it was still when the son was a long way off that the father caught sight of him and ran to greet him, which tells us that the father had been waiting all the time, looking out for his son, hoping he would return. And when he did return, the father threw his arms around him and kissed him. And he presented him with 3 gifts. The first was a pair of sandals, so that he wouldn't be barefoot like a slave. Next, there had to be a ring for the son's finger with the father's seal. And that would be used to purchase things, this for a son who had already spent a lot of what his father had. But most amazing of all, the father called for the finest robe for the son. It was like Joseph's coat of many colors from the book of Genesis. And that was the coat of the favored son. And even that wasn't all. The fattened calf saved only for the greatest celebrations like weddings was prepared for the feast. Well, in view of all of this showered on the prodigal son, it may seem that the father is unreasonably forgiving. The father went way too far. But if that's the message you got out of the parable, it just might be what Jesus wants you to understand. For if the father of the story was unreasonably forgiving towards the prodigal son, so too, God will be infinitely forgiving towards you and me. So what do you need to do? Well, how about tell the Lord you're sorry for sin? How about go to confession if you can? Know that the Lord loves you more than you can ever imagine.